Imagine a character so absurdly, unfathomably powerful that he literally slices massive black holes in half using nothing but a pair of wooden dining chopsticks. A figure so historically revered that an entire nation treats his lineage like royalty, yet so personally chaotic that his actual personality is basically a walking disaster. Today, I wanted to tell you everything that's everything about the character Reid Astrea from ReZero. We're looking at a man whose very existence absolutely shatters the rules of his own universe. A guy whose sheer, unadulterated skill renders reality itself completely optional. Okay, let's dive into this with a staggering quote from the battle boarding community that perfectly sets up his god-tier status. It says, "Reid manifests the notion of the sword, and a sword's only purpose is to cut things. Everything in front of his swing is obliquely obliterated from existence." We're not talking about some magical beam or a flashy spell here. No, we're talking about pure, unadulterated sword skill pushed to a level where the universe itself simply has to yield to his swing. Section 1. The First Sword Saint. Before we can truly grasp who Reid is today, we've got to look back 400 years. Let's rapid-fire some of his most insane historical achievements. He was a key figure in sealing Satella, the Witch of Envy, stopping the Great Calamity. He earned the title of Dragon Slayer by literally slaying over 100 dragons. Why? Mainly because dragon meat was his favorite food. Add in 6,000 undefeated victories at Gladiator Island Ginyun Hive, and oh yeah, winning intense drinking competitions against the Oni god. This is the towering, grandiose myth of Luginica's legendary savior. Section 2. The man behind the myth. Now take all that noble, heroic imagery you just built up in your head and just violently throw it out the window. Because when the cast finally meets his soul in Arc 6, it is a jarring disconnect. And this brilliantly illustrates the difference between the historical legend on the left, the divine savior minted on gold coins, and the actual reality on the right. Reid Astrea is foul-mouthed, relentlessly arrogant, a massive hedonist, and incredibly crude. He completely dismisses his legendary titles, and he doesn't even bother using a real weapon, preferring to beat the kingdom's greatest modern knights to a pulp using a pair of wooden chopsticks. And here's a fun, perfectly bizarre detail that sums up his entire vibe. You know that cool signature black eye patch he wears? It is 100% decorative. Yep, both of his eyes work perfectly fine. He just wears it because he feels like it. It's an entirely self-serving aesthetic choice from a guy who does whatever he wants, literally whenever he wants. Section 3. Zenith of the Heavenly Sword. So how does a guy this intensely arrogant get away with it? Well, we have to look at his absurd, unparalleled power. Reid is the first and only person in history to achieve the Heavenly Sword. This isn't a spell. It's not a granted divine protection. It's a state of swordsmanship so absolute that the user embodies the very concept of the sword itself. Because a sword's purpose is to cut, Reid can cut literally anything. Doesn't matter if he's holding the legendary dragon sword or a tree branch. His sheer, reality-breaking skill applies the exact same absolute cutting force. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how far he pushes this rule. He doesn't just cut physical objects, he cuts invisible concepts. When Beatrice fired Al-Shamak, which is effectively a massive space-altering black hole, Reid just casually swung his chopsticks and broke through it like it was nothing, claiming he simply slashed the air. He cuts through the invisible authorities used by Sin Archbishops. He severs space-time, dimensions, light, and even souls. Whatever is in front of him is obliquely obliterated. And again, no magic here. This is purely physical skill. But his defenses? Just as ridiculous. Reid utilizes a martial arts technique of energy channeling. When someone tries to hit him with blunt force, like a punch or a kick, Reid channels the full kinetic impact harmlessly out through the bottom of his feet and straight into the floor. He completely neutralized Ram's fierce, high-speed strikes simply by standing there and letting the stone masonry of the watchtower absorb the cracks and fissures from her attacks. Section 4. The Watchtower Trial Guardian. This brings us to his role in Arc 6, where his soul acts as this insurmountable obstacle on the second floor of the Pleiades Watchtower. To pass the trial, the group has to best him. Look at how effortlessly he handles the series' most determined fighters while barely even trying. Julius Duculius challenges him, Reid uses chopsticks, utterly defeats him, and leaves a literal conceptual scar beneath his eye that will never fade. Amelia tries, and technically passes, but really only because Reid lets his guard down out of lust for her. And Subaru? Oh, Subaru just gets slaughtered repeatedly. Let's move to and see how this builds into one of the most incredible lore moments in the entire series. The Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, Roy Alford, breaks into the tower and attempts to eat Reid's soul. But Roy literally bites off way more than he can chew. An assimilation backfire occurs. Reid's soul is so overwhelmingly dominant that it completely overwrites Roy's authority, hijacking his body and basically resurrecting Reid 4 centuries after his death. But ultimately, Roy's physical vessel just isn't strong enough to contain the heavenly sword, and his body literally shatters from Reid's overwhelming presence. Section 5. The ultimate Astrea legacy. Even though he's gone, his lasting physical impact on the world of Lugunica is massive. He passed down that signature flaming red hair to the Astrea lineage. He left behind the unbreakable dragon sword Reid, a sword so picky it can only be drawn against worthy opponents. So the crucial point is this ironic twist. Reid Astrea, the legendary first sword saint, the man who reached the absolute zenith of swordsmanship, never actually possessed the divine protection of the sword saint. The blessing didn't even exist yet, meaning everything Reid accomplished was purely through his own raw, unassisted effort. Which leaves us with a fascinating, provocative thought to end our explainer on. We know his descendant, Reinhardt, is considered the most powerful character, boosted by an insane amount of divine protections. The author even stated that Reinhardt is basically a glitch in the world, and that Reinhardt would win in a serious fight if both used chopsticks. But considering Reid's ability to sever concepts, magic, and space-time purely through sheer skill, if you stripped away the magic, the blessings, and the world's favoritism, who is truly the ultimate master of the blade? Let that simmer, and I hope this gave you a totally new appreciation for the absolute menace that is Reid Astrea.